talk a little bit more about the inception for this. And we also have a special guest. Thank you so much, Scotty, for joining us. So Moni's going to just give a brief introduction, and then Scotty, we're going to talk to you, especially about what your mug says right now that you're swirling around.
What it has in it. That's the important stuff.
Well, yeah, well, I would definitely, I'll get to that for sure.
All right. So hello, everyone. I am Moni Barrette. I am on the board for the Graphic Novel and Comics Roundtable, the American Library Association, obviously for hosting. We're all hosting this tonight, wherever you are. And thank you for joining us. And I think that to talk about where this idea came from for Creators Assemble, and when I say creators, I kind of mean collectively all of us who are here putting content in the world, putting good into the world, putting resources out there, especially in these challenging times, and looking at what we can do for others, for each other, for ourselves, to just kind of get through what we're all going through. And for me, I was planning an event for WonderCon specifically, and also working then for San Diego Comic-Con in an educator and librarian and creator event where it's kind of a speed dating style thing. We've had some creators come in the past. Alina's actually been one of our guests before. And what it is creators of all different backgrounds and levels, educators, librarians come and talk to one another, and then kind of rotate, getting a chance to talk to publishers, people who are trying to get started in the industry, and then of course the educators and librarians on the side of like how we use comics. And we were putting that together for WonderCon, and obviously WonderCon, along with other cons, became canceled, and so, or postponed. So I was looking for a way to sort of put similar content out there, and came together with Tina and with Amy, and also to add the components of where educators, where resources, where different things could come into play, because we have an unknown number of days and weeks and possibly months to be dealing with this. So why not make the best of it and do what we can?
So one of the things that we have is Moni has done a fantastic job lining up creators for conversations. And Scotty, you are on the docket for one of our conversations, but you've also done a webinar before with us for Ben Books Week. Mm-hmm. So we're asking everybody, you're kind of a little famous, and you have some titles that have come out.
Oh, fine, I'm kind of a big deal, no good, whatever.
So I was wondering if you could just talk to everybody here about some of the things that you have that are upcoming. Obviously, Strange Academy just launched.
Yeah, we just launched Strange Academy. The first issue came out last month, and that's written by me and drawn by Humberto Ramos and colored by Edgar Delgado, which is crazy because Humberto Ramos was one of my favorite artists when I was in high school. So now as a 40-year-old, 41, 40, I think I'm 42 now. I think I'm somewhere in those numbers now.
You're in like apocalypse years now.
Yeah. It's really strange for me now to be writing books for one of my heroes when I was a kid. It's weird to give notes. I feel like I'm not qualified to do so, but it's really amazing. And Strange Academy is a book that I pitched, that I created and pitched about 3 years ago to Marvel. When I just thought, man, Marvel has such a wide, diverse range of areas that it tells stories in, from Asgard to Weird World to, New York, to, the cosmos and all these crazy places. And we always talk about the superheroes from each of these places. But there's this whole other world of magic that exists in the Marvel universe. And we never really get to see that much outside of a Doctor Strange comic. And so I thought, man, it'd be really cool if we grabbed or created characters that existed in all these different islands of the Marvel universe and brought them together into a school. And it was a chance for me to kind of just recreate a little bit of what I grew up loving, which is Generation X, the whole concept of a bunch of misfits that go to school together and coming of age, right? It's just coming of age stories. It's, me doing Buffy or me doing Harry Potter or whatever. It's like, these are my favorite things in life, of just like telling stories about kids coming of age. So we launched that, and that's going strong. And we're really excited about what the kind of story we're planning on telling and the characters that we got to create. And yeah, hopefully everybody's enjoying it. It's one of those new, I mean, we didn't, I don't think we, oh, what are you doing? This is my son, Milo.
Hey.
We are being, I'm being an amazing parent, and screen time limitations are 0.
There are none. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to finish this interview and then I will come and set you up with you guys to play. Okay? Can you wait for that? Can you tell everybody hi?
No.
Okay.
It's funny because we were going to ask all the panelists, as we all are working from home right now. We all have, you know, unexpected coworkers.
Yeah, I knew somebody was going to come in. I was just hoping it would be pleasant like that. It wasn't going to be one of them coming in yelling about the other one for some reason. I was like, please don't do that. So yes, so I don't think we expected to launch Strange Academy at the beginning of the pre-apocalypse.
Strange times.
Yeah.
It's happened that way.
So we'll see what happens with it. We have that, my series Middle West at Image Comics, which is illustrated by Jorge Corona. We have 2 more issues of that to come out, and then that series is going to be over. That'll be 18 total issues with 3 trades, and then we're going to collect that into a really nice big volume for bookstores and libraries. And that's again a coming of age story of a boy who hasn't had such a great relationship with his dad, and we kind of mixed a little bit of kind of fantasy in that. I don't call it urban fantasy, it's more what's up?
Daddy,
Uh-huh.
Dexter won't let me play Roblox.
He won't let you play Roblox. All right, give me about 10 minutes and I will help you play Roblox, okay?
No, I want to play.
You guys are getting real life right now. Yeah. So Middle West, I have a book called I Hate Fairyland that I did for a while. It's one of my favorite projects I've ever been a part of. And that was me writing and drawing everything on my own. And I got a few projects coming up, hopefully, literally, as you guys might know, Diamond, our one distributor in our business, just stopped. They just put the shades down. So it's been an interesting week of phone calls and figuring out what our future is. But the cool thing is creativity has not been closed. So we're still pushing on and writing stories and drawing stories and the like.
I like that creativity has not been closed. So one thing I know that you've been doing on all of your channels is you've actually been promoting the Hero Initiative this week as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Hero Initiative is a foundation to help comic creators in need. Traditionally, that is used for the older creators who have come before us, who kind of built comic books. A lot of these guys came out and created all the heroes that we now go to movie theaters and watch. They created these things and didn't have any sort of legal leg to stand on. They didn't get to participate in profits. They didn't have they didn't get any money for these things in any sort of real way. And some have died with $0, and while we're going to movie theaters and they're making billions of dollars. And so the Hero Initiative is a foundation that helps those creators. Comic creators in need is the general thing, but that's mostly been what it is. Here he comes again. What's that?
Bex won't let me run around. You won't let me do it.
All right, you go tell him that I said you definitely can run around. Say, Dad. You guys are good. Hey, Baxter, let him run.
So
yeah, you want to do TikTok, just let him run.
Wait, are they doing TikTok videos?
Well, I just extended his TikTok time by 30 minutes if he does, and now he's like a gangster. I'm like the Godfather who just sits back and I like negotiate terms.
You're like, more time.
Yeah, more time. So the Hero Initiative, it normally helps people in a hard spot that have come upon hard times, and sometimes that means paying rent. Sometimes that means getting groceries, like helping a career. These people built the industry that we all love and that the stories we love, and so we give back to that. When this all started to happen, I am one of these creators that I luckily have started an online store over the years, and I sell prints, and we do a lot of stuff, and we sell artwork every day, and we do all that kind of thing. And so we couldn't shut that down because now my books are all stuff, but I wanted to make sure that we found a way to give back as well, because there's about ready to be a lot more comic creators in need that aren't just the ones that came before us. They're going to be the current ones right now. The people who make, I know it seems illustrious when it seems very luxurious when we go to the comic book shop and we see these books that we love, but not everybody making them are sitting on stacks of cash. Yeah. So this is going to take a lot of people out of the running in a lot of ways. So I thought that, just to start off with, for this next month, while we're in a complete and absolute unknown territory, that we're going to take a percentage of our proceeds, 20% of all proceeds that we make on my online store, and donate to the Hero Initiative while this thing's going on. And so awesome. we'll see what happens.
That's so cool. I want to make sure you get back to the TikTok videos. I know
I'm dying to. Please let me get back to it.
Wait, well, can people do a Patreon for TikTok videos of you with your kids? Because I feel like people would pay to see that.
Oh, I don't have a TikTok. And I'm definitely don't let people see his TikTok. I lock that stuff down hard.
So one of the things, especially we want to do with Creators Assemble and through the whole Libcomix online, is we are in such a weird place in the industry. Hey, Mila.
Okay, tell you what, you're going to do this with me for a second, and then I'm going to go. Don't. Okay, you have to go out there. I'll be out there in 10 minutes.
No, I don't want to be out there.
we can let you sign off right now.
No, for real. This is all the time. It's just rotating.
So one of the things we're going to ask everybody as we interview creators for Creators Assemble, and for all of us, I think, working from home, who are you following right now? Like, who are you following online? Like, what are you listening to bring you sanity, to bring you inspiration, as we all are in quarantine life right now?
Two really cool things. One of my friends and favorite rappers, POS, him and a couple other people put on a live kind of bedroom concert. Cool. So you just like on Instagram Live, each of them did like a hour-long set, and it was really awesome. That was really cool. And then the day before yesterday, I put out a video on. Hold on 1 second.
So for all of our attendees, as we continue, so one of the things that we really hope to accomplish through this kind of Creators Assemble is for this to be a conversation in a salon, to not be your traditional panel, because we're all kind of winging it as we go. So.
Right. I got on Instagram and I put a video. So I'm working on a project of mine called Boy at the End. I've done these sketches for years and years and years. I've been trying to work this project out, and I'm finally getting really close, and I wanted to kind of expand my playlist. And so I just asked on Instagram, like, for all the people who keep asking me to get this book out, I was like, I wanted to know what they heard when they saw the sketches. And I ended up getting close to 400 replies back.
Oh my gosh.
Some people saying one song, some people listing 10 songs. So I sat there for 2 days just listening and previewing hundreds of songs. And it was such a cool, interactive thing to do with people all over the world that I felt, I'm at home alone with kids and it's going crazy, but I felt connected to the world all of a sudden through drawings that I had made that they were interpreting through music, some of which I was like, I would have never thought that, but I love to hear what you hear when you see something I drew, even though that's not what I heard. It shows that storytelling and art is all so individual, we just interpret them any way we want. So that was really cool. So I've been listening to a lot of stuff that the internet has been telling me to listen to.
That's fantastic. And so our last quick question for you is, so your work from home life, we've seen some of your little coworkers. Are there particular things that have changed for you with the working from home?
Right. It is, you know what, this has been, we just got offices about a little under a year ago. So I worked from this room for a year when we moved here to Kansas City right out of the gate. So it's not been wildly different. We still have our offices. That's where my wife is now. she sent her off to reboot. We like, so and there's nobody else in our, like there's nobody near us, so it's actually more quarantined than here. So it's like it's a good idea that we have a room about a mile from our house that we can go and at separate times and just sit and be like, okay, all gonna be okay. But honestly, I've been doing this for 20 years, so this kind of work from home lifestyle, and we've had kids for 10 years, so it's not wildly different than a normal summer when the kids are out of school. I mean, mentally we're like, oh my God, the kids are now out of school for the next 6 months. Like,
no, it's just summer, just like
long summer.
It's a long summer.
Yeah, it's more of the like, what are we gonna? It's fine now, but what are we gonna do in 3 months? You know.
Yeah. So this is kind of what we were hoping with these. Like, we've all been watching like our favorite musicians do fantastic live concerts, and we're like, okay, what can we do to support through our comics community and like through the libraries and everything. So
there's a lot of cool things. I don't know. I mean, this has nothing to do with books or anything, but I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the really cool thing is the people who you usually see in your neighborhoods that are working all the time. They're not working. They're not at a job now. And so like families are walking a lot.
Yep.
Like I'm seeing more, dads who don't get to, I mean, all of a sudden the amount of dads I see walking kids, I'm like, I do it every day because I'm here, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you guys existed. You guys are all here now. It's really cool just to see the different nature of things. Or like, we've lived here for almost 2 years. I don't think we had a conversation with our next door neighbors almost ever. And now we're like sitting in our driveway, in their driveway, and having wine at night. Because the apocalypse, I guess. Now we're like, you told us that we can't talk, and now we're going to talk, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we want to let you get back to your TikTok videos.
Okay.
And Scotty, thank you so much for calling.
Yeah,
We
thank you
really
guys for
appreciate
having
it.
me. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, we're going to have a conversation coming up with Scotty Young soon for Creators Assemble. Thanks so much, Scotty. Take care.
All right, cheers.
Okay, bye everyone. Or bye to Scotty. We have more to come.
We're done.
We're done.
You guys are gonna watch me like fumble around and click on how to leave.
Yeah, we are.
It's not awkward at all.
Maybe
Hold
you
on,
can make
I'm probably gonna think. I'm gonna hang up and you guys will hear me yell at my. All right, I'm just gonna close.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night, Scotty. So everyone, we now have up Matthew No from the Libcomix resources and toolkits team. And Matthew No is going to talk to you a little bit about the graphic medicine community and a little bit about the initiatives that they have going on right now. So when we talk about the Libcomix community, we are international and we are like crossing interdisciplinary, and we have a lot of medical professionals that are part of the Libcomix community. So Matthew, it's over to you.
Hi. Is my audio working? Okay. If you hear weird like motorcycle sounds in the background, I live right across from the train station and the bus station, and it's warm, so the windows are open. And we've got this like roaming band of like teenagers with bikes and motorized scooters that they run around yelling "bike life" and throw up like a hashtag.
Wait, are you living like the Warriors movie right now?
A little bit. But they've been doing this for like a year, so they were ahead of the game. But so you hear strange things when you live in a downtown. I live in Worcester, Massachusetts. And so it's just now getting, sunny a little bit. Okay, so anyway, I'm Matthew No. As Amy said, I work with I'm the chair of the Resources and Toolkits Committee for the Roundtable. I'm one of the board members for the Graphic Medicine International Collective, which is this academic-minded nonprofit of physicians, comic creators, librarians, patients, advocates, all kinds of people interested in using comics for healthcare purposes. And so in light of all of this COVID-19 stuff, we've had to cancel our annual conference, which was going to be in Toronto. And so we have been thinking about how can we approach getting the community involved without any kind of meeting. So we're stepping up the social media game a little bit. We always have hashtag graphic medicine. You can follow along with that. I convinced Ian Williams, who's like the coiner of the term graphic medicine, to give me the graphic medicine Twitter account so we can see more on there. And we have a Facebook group if you're still on Facebook. There's all kinds of conversation going on in there right now, especially around comics about COVID-19. We've been trying to collect as many as we can on graphicmedicine.org. Another co-editor of the site, Alice Jaggers, has been working on that because it was just, I was trying to like keep all of these comics that people are making while in isolation or about talking to patients or to educate the public on like a thread on Twitter and then a thread on Facebook. It was too much. There's just so many people making so many things that the website blog post seems to be working better. So if you find them, let us know, but also check that out. I guess I didn't define graphic medicine. It's comics about healthcare. There's a really like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everyone, I messaged Matthew like just a few hours ago and was like, hey, so thank you so much for doing this, Matthew.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's see, I kind of threw like some of my slides for a presentation I'm giving tomorrow into a PowerPoint, and I'm looking at that, trying to keep myself oriented. But so these are comics like Smile, technically counts as graphic medicine. That's one that everyone here would know. Marbles, Mom's Cancer, things like RX and The Bad Doctor, all kinds of cool stuff. Speaking of trying to keep connected though, so we had a kind of like a satellite conference that was also supposed to be going on right this moment here in Boston this weekend. That did not get canceled, it got shifted online. A colleague of mine at Mass College of Pharmacy and people at the National Network of Libraries of Medicine were putting that on, and they managed to, in a 2-week time, shift it entirely virtual. So that's called the New England Graphic Medicine Conference. If you look up, I'll type it. If you look up this hashtag that I threw in the chat on Twitter, you can see today's tweets about the panels that were going on. That's where I was when Amy messaged me earlier. And our keynote today said something that I think is pretty relevant. I called it a manifesto. Brian Fees, the creator of Mom's Cancer and of the Fire Story, he's basically made a career out of comics about crises. So it was a great keynote to have right now. But he said what matters is the doing. In talking about graphic medicine, it's less about the end result or what you're trying to necessarily get out of it. What matters is that you sit down and actually do something with it. Like the process is what's important. And I think as we're all kind of working in this weird environment where, you know, for some of us, you know, we're still expected to have certain levels of productivity and normalcy in our day jobs, and that's probably not really possible. So reconceiving what matters, you're doing something. We're doing things like this, trying to bring people together when we can't see each other in person. I'm still upset about annual.
Yeah. It was the right decision. But
it was the right decision, but also sad.
Yeah.
But so for the graphic novels and comics roundtable, less graphic medicine, more graphic novels and comics roundtable. I mentioned the resources and toolkits committee. So if you go to the roundtable's website, maybe someone will drop the link in the chat, because if I try to do it, I'll get it wrong. There's a resources and toolkits page where we've been putting up all of the things we've done over the past 2 years. There's the event from last September, Creators Get Carded. You can see follow the hashtag of that and all these cool posts of creators at their library or with their library card. There's a few resource lists on there, like Social Justice in Comics that was created at Annual last year. They're book lists on different social justice topics. So if you are a librarian, that could be a cool way to throw out to your community, say, here's books, here's comics on this topic. Pick out which ones are available from your library digitally maybe and share them that way. There's one for comic creators. And then all of our webinars that we've done are listed on there in various formats. Some are linked directly as YouTube embeds, others link out to another page. Most recently, this includes the Freedom to Read Week webinars and both sets of Banned Book Week webinars that we've done in the past, one of which has Scotty in it. So if you want to go watch more of him. And so, yeah, and we're thinking right now, we're trying to put together a, what did I call it? Like a resource guide for librarians to use to connect with your communities while we're closed. It's a Google Doc where I'm asking people to drop in like electronic comic resources, examples of how you're marketing comics. Someone today added a comment asking about discussion guides. I haven't gotten back to it yet, but I think if you have discussion guides on comics, definitely throw those on there too. Anything we can do to help the library community, that's library workers and our patrons, stay engaged with comics right now is important. And not everyone knows as much about this as everyone else. So sharing our expertise is the key, I think. So that's my roundtable spiel, Amy.
Oh, so I guess the next question that we're asking everybody is, so what are you doing right now? Like, who are you following to stay informed in graphic medicine, but also who are you following? What are you reading, listening to just keep yourself well right now?
Well, don't spend as much time on Twitter as I do. It's not healthy. Just blanket statement.
Okay.
There it is. Yep.
It was awesome. It was so like badass.
They think they're cooler than they are. So what am I doing to stay in touch and informed? Well, I've been basically yelling about close the libraries on Twitter for 2 weeks. That's not really staying informed or relaxing, but it's important. Animal Crossing came out on Friday, so I'm basically living in Animal Crossing. Yeah. I have a picture next to me that's I earned an award in Animal Crossing for like catching 5 wasp nests in a row. And wasps, if you've played Animal Crossing, are the worst. So actually the tarantulas that are in the game now might be the worst. We've been watching a lot of anything with Alton Brown in it. Like I took a picture the other night of it was in Goodreads Reloaded. He's like holding up his dog in a little trophy and just going, ah, and it's pretty amazing. The Reloaded episodes are on Hulu right now, if you've got that. And I'm finding books to read. Let's see. These are my current new reads. There's one called Do Nothing. Basically a manifesto on doing less things, which I think we all need. A new translation of the Heart Sutra, and a history of coffee.
So cool.
Those 3 books pretty much just capture, my approach to life.
I like that, like asking everybody, like, what are 3 titles you in a nutshell?
Yeah. That could be a good Twitter thing. Yeah.
No, right. So I guess the next question is working from home. Are there changes? Like, how are your coworkers treating you?
Oh, yeah. They're pretty obnoxious. So I have 2 dogs. Some of you know. Luna and Belle. Luna is a 50-pound Australian Shepherd and Cattle Dog mix. Belle is an 80-pound Border Collie and Great Pyrenees mix. Bella's really sweet. She thinks she's a lap dog, but she's not. Luna is more like having a cat who just lays around and judges you all of the time and is only cute when she wants something from you. Honestly, they never come in this room when I'm in here working. I guess I'm too boring for them. If I bring a treat in here, they'll follow me, but otherwise it's just, I work from home normally 1 day a week anyway. So I have kind of a setup, but it's different. Like it's working at home, but it's not normal working at home. Because everyone that normally I'm here and everyone else is at the library at work. And just the atmosphere of everything is different.
Well, one thing for any panelists and attendees who aren't familiar with the graphic medicine community, it's Ian Williams, correct?
Yes.
Who is one of the main sort of founders of graphic medicine community in the UK, is a doctor. And so I'd reached out to Matthew and I was like, oh, it would be really great if we could hear from Ian from the situation of the UK. And he was like, well, Ian's really busy right now.
Yeah. He just posted, so Ian's generally in a private, like it's still the NHS, but he's in like a private clinic kind of. He's been drafted to go back into the hospital. So he posted a picture of himself in scrubs for the first time in like a decade.
Wow.
It's a huge change for that. Yeah, the whole graphic medicine community is kind of hyper stressed out. We've been meeting once a week lately to just kind of try to decompress together. Oh, and I forgot the plug for that. If you watch graphicmedicine.org, we're putting together these things we're calling Drawing Together, where every week we're gonna open up a Zoom channel where people can just come together for 20 minutes to an hour and just draw together. You can share your art, just be together virtually, even though we can't be together in a room together.
And Matthew, what's Ian's handle on Twitter?
At the bad doctor, but it's just DR, not the whole thing.
Oh, okay, but he's bad doctor. Like,
here, I can type. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so thank you so much, Matthew, for coming on and talking about graphic medicine, especially as we talk about the greater sort of comics community. I think it's really interesting that we have this fantastic part of comics, which is adult reading of comics, which is a lot of nonfiction comics, memoir, and graphic medicine, and also the front lines right now.
My last plug is if you go register for the last day of the New England conference, which is tomorrow, you'll get emailed with the recorded videos of everything. So even if you can't attend live, they'll all be recorded and uploaded later. So yeah. Oh,
that's fantastic. Matthew, thank you so much.
Of course.
So if we actually is Jimmy on the line? Jimmy Palminotti? Tina, are you able to add him as a panelist? Hold fast, everybody. This is the first time we're doing this.
We're doing a lot of things right now, but we appreciate you being here for sure.
So one of the things I'll say as we're just adding our next creator panelist is we have a few different things going on under the umbrella of Libcomix Online. So we have our Creators Assemble, and a big part of this was started through Moni. We had a lot of programming scheduled for WonderCon, and Moni was going to talk a little bit more about that later. One of the other things that we have is that we do every day in libraries is we offer readers advisory, so recommendations on reading. And with so many of our physical libraries closed, hopefully all of them soon to be closed, we love everybody in our communities, but some healthcare studies have actually put the risk of libraries up there with hospital waiting rooms in terms of touch points and the fact that virus can actually live on books. So we are actually doing readers advisory via our online forum. I've shared the link in our chat, but it's also, if you go to our @Libcomix Twitter or Instagram, we are doing live reading recommendations as we speak. I actually responded to about 13 last night. So everybody might notice who got any recommendations from me. I'm a big fan of Bitterroot. If you guys don't know, there's actually a great tie from Bitterroot to the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921, and I'm watching Watchmen right now. So know that if you had a recommendation from Bitterroot, I did that one. So we're doing live readers advisory for everyone. We also are trying to signal boost not only our creator community, but people who are within comic book stores. We really want to make sure that we know that life as we know it is going to be a little bit differently going forward, but we want our comic shops, we want our indie bookstores to still be around. And so many of them are still doing delivery, curbside pickup, and as much as possible, we want to signal boost. We are hoping that we can signal boost comic shops. Moni, I just need to do something for another panelist. Would you mind just taking over and talking a little bit more about Creators Assemble?
I would, and I want to thank Alina and Alonso for their parts of being among the first to jump on board to help with this project. Alonso from Little Fish Comics as someone who's going to be doing some moderating, and I've worked with him as a moderator before, and he's amazing. And we'll get to talk a little bit more about Little Fish in the back half of this tonight. And Alina, you were, I think, the very first person, and it wasn't for lack of being super busy, to come on board on the creator side and be ready to help in any way possible. So we had our first 30-minute pre-recorded interview, and that was with you yesterday. Dan Wood moderated that. He's from our roundtable as well. And we are looking as a component, just for those out there who know of people who might be also willing to help, for kids content, whether that be in the comic space or just kind of educational or that kind of thing. So Alina is a perfect example of, you know, someone who's able to lead story times, real-time drawings. And if you're asking me, even if she wasn't here right now, to say who I'm following right now, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's 7, and she definitely is a budding little artist, and she's just in love with watching Alina do her artwork on her Instagram. So thank you for coming for that. And we will have other creators. We don't know how many weeks we have. So what we're focusing on right now is the 30-minute pre-record, so that we'll have content in between, things like the graphic medicine, the reader's advisory, you know, real time with educators and librarians. And then on the other side, creators, retailers. We have some retailers actually set up to do some of these panels. We're going to do some fun buddy comedy duos of creators who know each other to actually interview one another. So some of your favorite follows, maybe like on Twitter, the creators that you know have a relationship with one another, we're inviting them to actually interview one another. And I think hilarity will ensue. We're also going global. We've been talking with our counterparts in Australia. And as Amy mentioned, I mean, she's representing for Canada. We're looking at, you know, England. Yeah, there you go. So we have a lot of potential for extreme crossover. And we are also hoping that this project sort of endures above and beyond what's going on right now. You know, virus notwithstanding, once we're all back at work, this is still content that we can be putting out there, and a way to sort of forge a global community among those of us who are interested in both the comic side and the library and educators side. So.
I know we're a little off time, but Angela, do you mind joining the conversation now? Awesome. So everyone, we have Angela joining us from the Intellectual Freedom Roundtable, and she's going to talk a little bit about their work. We have partnered with them on the Banned Books Week webinars, and also the most recently Freedom to Read Week, which is the Canadian equivalent of Banned Books Week. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us. And I also messaged her, we were on a podcast recording this morning, and I was like, so thank you so much, Angela.
Yeah, the funny part was you were like, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, oddly, my social calendar is really free right now. Like, don't have a lot of plans. It's not date night. It's moving from the kitchen table to the bedroom table, which is depressing. You also saw my adorable dog, who doesn't understand why I'm home, but not petting him all the time. He's very confused by that. So yeah, I'm Angela. I'm with the Intellectual Freedom Roundtable. I sit on that board, and then I get to be a fun member of the Graphic Novel Roundtable as well. And I got into Intellectual Freedom Roundtable because I think it's really important. One of the things that drew me to intellectual freedom was I have a real big passion for working with teens. And shortly after the Pulse shootings, I had a lot of queer kids that I work with who were really afraid to go to Pride in San Francisco. They were really worried, but it's their first Pride. So the library decided to host something. And we were boycotted, and people with pickets came to our library. And I was like, man, I really thought I live 45 minutes south of San Francisco. I didn't expect that. And it really struck home that intellectual freedom is really important, whether it's the books we put on our shelves, the programs that we host, anything that we have in our libraries should really be free for everybody. And it drew me into the American Library Association and the Intellectual Freedom Roundtable. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on, and we are talking about in the midst of COVID, things that are still important, like patrons' privacy rights. So after our last meeting, we were talking about, now that all of our library staff is working from home, how do we make sure that your library record is secure? I'm dialing up from my personal computer. How do I make sure that the content you have is just as secure when I'm at home as when I'm in the physical building? And that we look at things, and sometimes during a crisis, we let things like people's personal privacy sometimes slip to the side because it's chaos and it's hard, and we're just trying to do the best that we can. And how can we ensure that everybody still follows some of that, so that we have safety and security and freedom for everybody and everything that they do. The other thing the Intellectual Freedom Committee is really working on is there is this desire, I think, among, you know what, it's the entire world, but for librarianship, like, what do we do? So much of our work is based in creating communities and giving people a home. How do we look at things where there's this big digital divide of people who don't have content at home because they don't have Wi-Fi, because they don't have a device. Most of the teens I work with, they use the library for the internet. Their only device is a telephone that they have, and they can't use it anywhere that doesn't have Wi-Fi. So how are they staying connected in this world? So that's one piece of it. And also, I think in my own day-to-day job, I'm a teen librarian by calling, but this has been really hard, I think, looking at the social impacts on the kids that we work with. You know, I wonder about the quiet kids that come in and they take 18 volumes of manga off the shelf and they go sit in the corner and devour it. And they don't have that place anymore. And what does that look like for them? And how are we being able to reach out to them? One of the things I do in my own personal life is I'm not very good with boundaries. So I've invited them throughout my career to follow me on Instagram. And so I just send them random Instagram messages from their librarian being like, how's everything going? Like, what's going on? How are you doing? Have you heard from so-and-so? How are they doing? A lot of my kids are homeless. And so trying to track them down now is really tough. But I think how we can connect with them and how we can work on stability for teens is really important. You know, it's kind of tangential, but we kind of, 2 days into our lockdown here in Oregon, we had a teen suicide from one of our local high schools. And I think librarianship has to pivot in a way. We have to find ways to create connections with our kids, even though we don't have a physical building anymore. That's not just the work I do with intellectual freedom, but also the work I do just every day that I come into my library. So yeah, I kind of went on a rant.
No, I think everyone, Angela and I did a podcast recording, and we were talking a lot about the fact that, yeah, like this has shined a light on a lot of things. So we're really thankful for this community and the fact that we can all meet virtually, and just the fact that, you know, we're all trying to see what we can do to watch out for each other. So getting to our 2 questions that we're asking everybody, tell us, like, what's keeping you going right now? Like, who are you following? What are you reading? What are you listening to both keep you informed, but also keep the self-care going?
Well, part of it is I feel like I've unfollowed a lot of celebrities that I normally follow on Instagram, because I'm always like, you have a really big basketball court and you're 18 rooms and you know, I'm stuck here. So I've actually unfollowed some people. But what I really enjoy is now more than ever, the humor that comes from the webcomic Poorly Drawn Lines. Like, those guys are ridiculous. And every time I see a new comic, I'm just like so delighted and happy to see it. So I'm following that. And I'm also following a lot of cooking blogs because I feel like the apocalypse is a great time to do some baking. Yeast and toilet paper are like the 2 hardest things to find at the grocery store, because I think everybody is like, I'm gonna bake, now is finally the time, until you go to the store and there's no more yeast and you're like, why am I at the store for yeast? It's the apocalypse. So yeah, just a lot of cooking blogs I'm following.
A lot of cooking. No, that actually seems both pragmatic and actually good for the soul as well. So I know a little bit about this, but if you could share with everyone, I kind of love the fact that you're both an Oregon stereotype in the best way because you have chickens.
I know. I lived in California for so long, and you can't afford housing in California. So when I moved to Oregon, I was like, I'm going to buy a chicken. And when I bought my house here, it came with a chicken. No. And I was like, oh yeah, chicken. So when it's nice outside, which is rare sometimes in Oregon, I bring my chickens onto my video calls now. And so I'm like, meet Hedwig. And then he tries to eat the screen and he takes a crap somewhere and it's.
Wait, why are you not live streaming Hedwig doing?
I know, I should bring him in.
Next time.
Yeah. He's really mean.
That's awesome. If do you have anything else more that you want to add about working from home? Otherwise, Angela, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and especially at such short notice. And like all Absolutely. I'm just thinking about is like.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks so much, Angela. Take care.
Yeah.
So Moni, we wanted to tag in our creators who actually had the first Creators Assemble.
Yeah, so Alina, thank you for your patience in us getting to you as we wing this this evening. But I wanted to say hello, first of all. How are you holding up right now?
Pretty good. For me, it's just like normal day since I work from home and I happen to have 4 project deadlines. So it's kind of an excuse to change me to the studio and not go out at all.
You're like, darn, I can't come out today. I got to do some more drawing. That's amazing. So, what drew you to be involved? Well, first of all, talk about can you talk about the projects that you're working on currently?
Yes, I can talk about 3 of them. So one is Marshmallow and Jordan. My graphic novel is still have enough of a pages I need to finish. So I'm working on that, and I'm also working on a picture book illustration for Lee and Low called Bonnie's Rocket, and it's a really fun nonfiction story about a Chinese American girl want to be a rocket science, and then it's a story that parallel told with the Apollo 11 mission. So it's really fun for anyone loves science and space technology. And then there's another picture book that's also already announced, is also as an illustrator, is a Jackie Chan picture book. So that one will be pretty fun. It's with Random House.
That's cool.
And then there's one book with Scholastic, which have not announced yet, so I'm not supposed to talk about that one. So,
Spoilers, there's nobody watching this right now. No.
Hey, Scholastic.
There she is.
They're fine.
Okay, it's freezing intermittently, so at least on my end, so I just want to make sure. Are you still with us?
yes, I'm still here.
Perfect. So what drew you to work with us on this particular project when you heard about it? What kind of was the appeal for it for you?
Sorry, you cut off a little bit. Do you mind to repeat the question?
I hope it's not on my end. Yeah, for the Creators Assemble project that we're doing now, what drew you to make you want to be involved in it?
Oh, I feel like this is the time as creators should support each other, because it's a tough time for everybody. And I know there's a lot of readers and people out there, they would like to connect with creator. I think it's just a really good time. The more human connection we can create and share content and share knowledge and joys will help everyone get through these tough times. And to me, it's a great opportunity just to stay connected with the communities when everyone is locked down at home. And also I feel like small little thing we can do to like give back to the community in a way and make people feel a little bit happier, a moment of escape during this difficult time.
Nice, thank you for that. And you have the cutest bad coworker whom you shared with us on the 30-minute video that you recorded yesterday. Is it Peanut? Is that his name?
It's Piglet.
Piglet, that's right. Can you tell us about Piglet and how he inspires your work?
Oh, Piglet. She's my coworker and she's really sassy. She always remind me I need a break, because sometimes when I work, I just forgot about break. So she would come back and check on me and put her paw on my lap. So it's okay, time to play with me, time for snacks. So it always like help me to get relaxed. And I have a habit hiding her in all my books. So it doesn't matter whether I illustrate a book or I write the book, I always hide Piglet somewhere in the book. Sometimes it's more obvious than the other, so people have to look for her. So that's one of the things I do with Piglet.
She's the most adorable reoccurring character and best bad coworker, perhaps. We should do some kind of nomination, because I know Amy has her bad coworker. Angela, I saw someone pop up in your video, so we should do a pets of bad coworker as part of our content here, and just do a vote.
I would love to see the chicken.
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second.
I would love to. Oh, I said definitely love to see everyone's pet, especially chicken.
Oh my gosh, what if instead of our faces, it was just all of our pets? like
that would be
on this
so
right now.
cool.
Wouldn't that be the most amazing thing? And then I just wanted to finish up our chat before we move forward with what are you doing to stay safe and stay sane? It sounds like not too much has changed for you work-wise, but is there anything that you're doing a little bit differently kind of to get through these challenging times?
For now, nothing too different since I'm kind of just keep working on the same project that I was working on earlier. But I've been binge watching a lot of Chinese fantasy kung fu TV show and movie because it's at the back of my head. My next potential graphic novel idea would be fantasy kung fu Chinese.
That's awesome.
Chinese fantasy kung fu kind of story, but instead of take place in the ancient times, it will be take place in modern time with two-dimensional timeline, something like that. So right now I'm like, whoa, partly is an escape, just escape to a fantasy world. Another part of me is just like slowly kind of brainwash myself with that type of content. So when the times come, I'm ready to write something, I will have enough inspiration. That's what I'm doing right now. But the problem is I watch so much of those shows now on my streaming service. That Netflix is only give me the Asian show. So when I try to watch other shows, I still want to watch my American show, other English show. It's not there anymore. It's like Netflix just show me all kind of Asian shows. I love those, but I need other variety too. But it just stopped sharing other content with me now because I watch so much of those. It's
That
so
means
funny.
you're missing out on Tiger King. And I mean, that just can't happen. So.
Well, I try to figure out how to fix my Netflix because now it's just pure Asian TV and movie. I even try to watch some of my favorite American show, but that's it. Maybe they just recommend 2 to 3 titles to me. The rest is all Asian show. I'm like, I love Asian show, but I also love other stuff.
Like we need some more variety, especially no matter how long this goes on, we're going to need some other things to watch. So
it's so funny how those algorithms work.
all right. So if you don't have anything else to add for us, Alina, thank you again so much for being part of this project and for coming on right now. Alina, follow her, Alina, ALINACHAU on Instagram, and it's incredible to watch her do her artwork. But thank you again. We're gonna move forward with Amy and Jimmy in a minute here. So.
Yep. So Jimmy, are you on as a panelist? That's just
Can you hear me? Can you
yeah,
guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
you're good to go. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and especially such short notice. Chris Arendt, again.
Yeah, Chris wrote me in. He's like, "Come on, buddy, you could do it."
So I see.
I'm happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Also, isn't it amazing how we're using wrestling terminology? I was like tagging people in, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm showing myself as a wrestling fan.
Your shirt itself impresses me. The shirt.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
I know, it's amazing. So Jimmy, again, thank you for joining us with such short notice. So I guess one thing we're asking everybody is, this is a weird time for all of us. It's a weird time for comics. Like, who are you following? What are you staying on top of to both keep yours informed, but also keep your self-care going?
I'm actually doing a lot of reading the news instead of watching the news because there's too much politics involved in that. And I've been like analyzing the virus. So when I go out shopping, I do all the perfect things, you know, the 6 feet, actually yesterday I made my own hand sanitizer and,
Wait,
you know,
what?
well, you get a bottle of aloe, which you can order online, and you get alcohol, and it's 1/3 aloe, 2/3 alcohol, mix it together like in a pot and then pour it into your bottles and it's perfect. You don't need to buy any hand sanitizer. So I made batches and I filled all the little bottles I have, all the empty bottles my wife has everywhere with that. And so I made enough to give, to take care of my neighbors as well. But yeah, just been researching and, because we both work at home, Amanda and I both work at home, it's been pretty normal, except she's under a really, she has a real deadline, like she has to get this work in. So I've been cooking more. And I have I used to live in Brooklyn, and now I'm down in Florida. I'm down in Clearwater, where all the crazy people are on the beach. Everybody except the people that lived in Florida were on the beach. So we just basically, I've just been communicating with a lot of my single friends because they're in their house alone, and I've been checking in. I've been calling up in little waves from A to Z. How you doing? Just a couple of minutes, to, whether it's a video or phone call, because I know they're by themselves, and I just keep checking in with them. And then we've been offering shopping. When I go shopping, I make sure anybody over 70 on my area, I see if they need anything, milk or stuff to pick up. So I've been like the gopher for a lot of people for shopping, but that's been keeping me really busy, believe it or not. Watching a little TV. We have like the comfort food TV. We watch 30 Rock because it's like comfort food for us. We've seen them all already, but somehow watching them again and laughing at them is kind of relaxing for us.
I love that. No, 30 Rock is amazing. Just the theme song alone is a really good like dance party.
Yes.
If you all are not doing solo dance parties.
all the depression goes away. I mean, there's a lot of fear mongering going on, and actual, I'm a big believer in science and getting the facts, taking the fear aspect out of things, finding out what I can do and what positive things I can do, and also what it's about makes it less scary for me. So I've been spreading that information on basically on Twitter mostly. I've been putting a lot of things, little videos that I've been finding that are informative, and so I've been doing that because I think there's a lot of people that is scared, and they just really need a voice that says, all right, nobody can think straight in panic mode. And you don't want to get in the car with a panic driver, So I've been just trying to help people through that. And again, just checking in on a lot of friends, because there's a lot of people by themselves, and they need to hear a voice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you mentioned you're sort of working from home normally. Have there been anything that have changed in your routine? I guess more like making your own hand sanitizer, which I'm super impressed about. Like, I feel like this is.
Oh, it's so easy too. The ingredients are available. It's just, I think the only difference is because I'm very close to my neighbors. So the 6 feet thing, we have a balcony out part of a house. So we see our neighbors, we talk to them from the balcony. I mean, it really hasn't been that different, except, every morning I'll kind of go out and say, I do need some more toilet paper, but we're good for now. Like, it's little weird things are running out in the supermarket. Pasta is like the empty pasta shelf near us for some reason. There must be a lot of Italians around here. But it's I turn on the news for 5 minutes in the morning when I wake up, because I'm thinking maybe this didn't really happen. Maybe this was a really, really intense dream that was like, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just waiting for that curve to be flattened. I'm buying into all the sayings, and, but no, I think right now it's just normal. We have a deadline we're working on a Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey book together. And I actually write, the Wonder Woman 100, the DC 100s for the stores, the Wonder Woman story every month. So I have work until they tell me not to work.
Yeah.
But it's not that different. The only thing is my wife's parents live nearby, so we check in on them. That's the thing. But maybe ask me in a month from now when my hair is like crazy and I have no more hair left, and maybe it'll be a different answer. But right now, I'm trying to stay sane and positive, because I feel like when I'm not positive, people feed off that, and I don't really want to throw that out to the room. So I'm trying to. 30 Rock definitely helps a lot. If you haven't watched the show, it definitely make you giggle and forget about what's going on for a couple of minutes.
Well, I also think one of the things you were talking about is it's sort of funny that here we are, if you will, the librarians of the apocalypse, and we're the comics librarians talking to comics creators, people who have risked like life and limb to like do something that is in itself a huge risk. And so I think
tell you exactly what they're feeling the minute they're feeling it. But so you're kind of putting yourself out there with the work, and especially I write stuff monthly. But I also learned that I have to write it for myself, and if I'm entertained, that gives me the good faith to throw it out there and see what happens. I say I have a learning curve that has no straightaway ever. It's just one giant curve. So every day is a new thing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we are hoping that this will sort of be an ongoing, we've tossed around ideas. We're like creators assemble because it's just me and my terrible jokes. Like I'm literally wearing an Alpha Flight t-shirt. So I'm like,
It's awesome. Come on. All of Canada loves that shirt. Come on.
I mean, right. I mean, I am in Alberta, so I mean, home of
Oh, you are?
Wolverine.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, that makes more sense now.
I know, right? But no, we are hoping that this can be an ongoing thing. We're all of us checking in on each other and also signal boosting and continuing to stay connected. I mean, because yeah, it's amazing. So Jimmy, I want to say thank you so much. And before you sign off, can you just give us the recipe for hand sanitizer again?
Sure. So it's aloe. You can buy aloe,
Yeah.
right? When you get that suntan, you throw the aloe on, or it's for skin. You can buy and it's literally it's 1/3 aloe, 2/3 alcohol. I think it has to be over a 97% straight alcohol. You buy these little bottles from the drugstore, and you just put it in a pot and put the 1/3, measure it out, 1/3 aloe, 2/3 alcohol, mix it up till it's a little liquidy, but it has that kind of texture you're familiar with, and then just use anything you can to pour them into all your little bottles, and you can make with a good amount, you can make like 5 or 10 of those little hand sanitizers easily, and
Awesome.
and because I don't know about you, where we are, nobody has them.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of other things, plenty of fruit. I noticed there's a ton of fruit, which is great. Like every day I'm like curious about what they're running out of. Today it was pasta. But
interesting. It's like the COVID Chronicles. Today they ran out of pasta.
Yeah, well, I think that most people don't know how to cook. So pasta is sort of like, oh wait, I could just boil it and then I can microwave the sauce and put it on and I'm good to go. I think anything cereal must be selling really well because that's like cereal, milk, done. How many people here have had cereal for dinner at one point in the last 2 weeks? There you go.
I feel very called out.
See? It's like we're doing all the basic cooking, it's like the easiest things. But it's going to be an interesting time. And I am looking forward to when this passes and the new. I'm looking for how the world has changed. I know the environment's loving the break we're giving it, but I can't. It's going to be really interesting. I'm trying to look at it in a positive, cool way instead of being frightened. I do miss my local bar, though. I have to say, I do miss going. Yeah.
Awesome, Jimmy. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can hear more from you as we do more Creators Assemble. And thank you again, and Chris. So many thanks. Next up, we have Alfonso. Thank you, Jimmy.
All right, Mr. Alonso, Little Fish Comics, how are you holding up?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for responding to the last minute call to help out and participate in this. You and I paneled together, was it 2 weeks ago now? Time has no meaning.
2 weeks / 5 years ago.
5 years ago, we attended a local San Diego Comic Fest, which now to me is like the last comic fest on earth until the foreseeable future. So, but I wanted to have you describe, because it was local and we're holding it down for our area, San Diego, what Little Fish is about, but also now how that business has changed for the foreseeable future right now, and how you might see that change going forward to where more people watching might be able to participate in a wider capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. So Little Fish Comic Book Studio is a nonprofit here in San Diego, and we teach classes, camps around comic books, and then do advocacy for the comic art form. Lots of conventions. We have a partnership with our local NPR affiliate, with the National Park. We do a lot of kind of outreach along those ends. We've switched to all digital right now, which I was a little trepidatious about. I thought maybe the kids would not enjoy it. It would feel like a distant kind of consolation prize. But they've actually really enjoyed it. Frankly, I think their parents have enjoyed the 2-hour break every day that they take class. And I think we've also given them a kind of much needed kind of continued stability in all of this. And they've really, really kind of enjoyed our first digital session was actually a week ago tomorrow, right after the stay at home or shelter at home order here in California went into place. And that morning I had no idea. Our average class load on Saturday is 15 students. I didn't know if we'd get 0 or 15. You know, we had 10, which was fantastic. So 10 students across Zoom. And I kind of, you know, just wanted to check in with them, see where they were at, what they were doing, how they were coping. And we kind of decided on the next comic project being, in essence, all of them as post-apocalyptic versions of themselves. So they've been working with avatars and character designs. At one point, one of our newer students, in fact, was doodling something, and he held it up for the screen. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. You've got like a, you know, you've got like a Viking kind of fur shawl on." And he goes, "Yeah. But Mr. Alonso, this isn't just any shawl." He goes, "This is the fur from all of my stuffed animals that I had to skin to sew together to keep warm." And I was like, "Oh," and I go, "Oh, that's why they're all different colors." And he goes, yeah. See, this one is a teddy bear, and this one, you know, so, and then from there, we kind of looking ahead to April, what they're going to do is do short, you know, 4 to 8 page stories with those characters marching through, you know, I imagine, but for them useful and kind of cathartic post-apocalyptic wastelands, right? So we're moving, you know, we're staying open. We haven't had to cut any hours for any staff, which has been, as the director, my biggest concern. You know, I want Little Fish to always put its money where its mouth is, literally in this case. And so, you know, luckily we haven't had to enact any cuts, but I will cut my own salary before I cut hours for any students. I think it's too important for what we do.
That's amazing. And how has your transition been personally? I know you have young ones at home. How's that work-life balance? How are they holding up?
It's been good. So I tend to spend a decent amount of time at home. You know, I do a lot of cooking. I actually love shopping and cooking and doing all that stuff. And so I tend to be home during the week. But now I have to share it with 3 other coworkers, meaning a wife and kids. And so it's been a little bit of adjustment there, but and I feel a little annoyed that I can't just get the things I need at the grocery store, you know, so it's been a little improvisation. That said, I have funneled what had been transportation budget for gas into cocktail supplies. So I'm being responsible, but also, you know, maintaining sanity.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my parent friends especially have been reporting earlier and earlier bouts of day drinking as a result directly of everything that's going on. But what do you foresee first for Little Fish? Like, what do you foresee going forward? Do you think you're going to do a lot more offering classes only online, or you think you'll go back to like a physical version or a hybrid, or what do you think is going to happen?
You know, looking at this, that's a good question, Moni. Looking at this, like I always thought that doing digital, and we've always had a certain amount of students who frankly prefer to work digitally. We have a decent chunk of students who are incredibly shy or on the spectrum, and for them it's a lot easier to just work from home, you know, and screen share and share content like that. But looking now at it's working, I think we'll offer a good amount of digital classes. You know, San Diego, for those of you not familiar like me and Moni, San Diego is a very large county. It's the size of Connecticut, literally. And so there's parents that have reached out to me that are up in North County, and they have kind of taken this as an opportunity to kind of experiment with digital classes, you know, so kind of, you know, we'll definitely reopen the studio as soon as we can, but I think we'll maintain a certain digital footprint and maybe experiment with kind of creator talks a little bit like this, creator talks and demos across digital platforms for students.
Great. So there's an opportunity here, just sort of like there is with this project that we're doing. So before we let you go, besides day drinking and cooking, what has helped you stay sane? What are you reading, watching, listening to that you want to recommend to the rest of us?
You know, it's funny, we took the opportunity last week to kind of expose our kids 7, 8, and 11 to Lord of the Rings for the first time. But you know, and I was like, this is fantasy. It's, you know, it's a great escape. But the kind of apocalyptic anti-industrial revolution tones that Tolkien was hitting in the book really are like blaring forward now. Me and my wife would give each other looks like, oh, that's that hits a little close to home, right? But so we made our way through that. I started Sandman with my daughter, which is really exciting. Neil Gaiman's Sandman book. I've been reading up on my cocktail history, you know, so it's been a lot of fun there. I've also been making a little bit of headway on a graphic novel I'm working on myself about ancient Egypt's first female pharaoh, Hatshepsut. So I'm doing a little research and, you know, procrastination there, frankly. And then me and my wife have had a long kind of simmering, you know, couples reading club. And I jokingly proffered the Decameron. So I think we might jump into that.
Well, that's date night now. So you've got something to do for Friday nights.
Decameron and a bottle of red wine.
There you go. Or one of your cocktail mixes.
Exactly.
All right. So thanks again for joining us for this and for being a part of this project. Alonzo will be doing some of the moderating for some of the content you see going forward with the Creators Assemble project. And feel free to drop your socials if you'd like for Little Fish in the chat. But with that, we're going to go on to the next one. Thank you.
And so Aubrey, I think you're up next. Thank you so much again for joining us super last minute.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here digitally. Can I say that?
Yeah, entirely. At this point, everything goes.
We're making the rules. We're writing new rules right now. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. And you also had participated in our Creators Get Carded initiative back in September too.
Yeah, I took a selfie and everything for y'all.
So what is your local library?
Oh, you know what? I actually just moved. So it recently just changed, but I was using the Silver Lake branch of the Los Angeles Public Library.
Oh, okay, cool.
And now I'll be going to the Highland Park branch.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for participating in September. And now again, as apparently Librarians of the Apocalypse that I said is taking off online. So apparently this is a thing. So as we've been talking about with everybody, like, what are you working on now? And sort of how has that changed? Like, how has your work-life balance and what you're doing changed about what's going on?
You know, I think probably like a lot of folks, like freelance creatives, my day-to-day hasn't really changed all that much, aside from like the added existential dread and agita, right? But like that's not so much a change as it is in prevalence as it is just in height and intensity. So so it's just more of what's generally there. But no, day to day my work hasn't really changed too much. You know, I'm working on upcoming comics projects that are unannounced as of right now, so I can't spill the beans on those, or else my editor would break all of the shelter at home rules to come knock me around the head. But I'm also working, so I'm working on those. I'm working on upcoming comics projects, and I'm working on my first novel. I completed the first draft of it late last year, and I am working on edits right now.
That's awesome.
Not right now, but generally right now.
Yeah. I have this idea that, like, maybe because I also read a lot of sci-fi, that like the creatives will inherit the earth.
That is a very optimistic way to look at things, Amy.
Chosen optimist. Natural born cynic, chosen optimist. So as you, like, obviously this hasn't changed things too much being a freelancer normally and like working at home, but what are some like people you're following in terms of staying on top of things, but also staying positive and like keeping the self-care going as you're working right now?
Yeah, you know, I'm a big Jacobin reader. Both
cool.
the print publication, which I've got the most recent one over there, that's what I've been kind of plowing through in the evenings, as well as kind of the online presence, and that's kind of been my go-to source for news and stuff these days. It is, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the staying positive aspect of it. Oh, my dog's here. This is good content, right? I'm gonna force. Yeah, this is Taco. He's beautiful. I know.
He looks like Falcor from the Neverending Story.
That's what everybody says. I know. Okay, he's not thrilled. But no, staying positive is a big part of my daily MO. I've kind of curated a feed online of folks who kind of speak to things that are going on, but in a way that I generally find honest, but also hopeful. And that's kind of, the populist leftist bent of the stuff that I've been consuming news-wise.
I love that. No, I think that's, yep, 100%. So, I mean, are you home more often? Like, how is Taco responding to you, like being like shelter in place right now?
Aside from doing Dungeons and Dragons over Roll20, which I've got tonight, which I'm very, very excited.
So cool.
Aside from not going out for Dungeons and Dragons, not a whole lot has changed. I don't know if Taco and his cat sister Dixie have noticed much of a difference at all, honestly.
I love this headline from the comics community. Well, comics creators are like, not much has changed.
This is kind of what we do.
That's awesome. I guess one question, just like we have talked a lot about Diamond and just like the no new comic books, are there some ways that you're trying to sort of signal boost other creators or participate in things given the current state of things?
Yeah, it's been tough because the situation has been changing hour to hour, and it's different state to state, even city to city. And late last week, I have a mailing list of retailers, folks that I will call and keep in touch with when I have new books coming out and things like that. And I had reached out to them for, basically saying like, how can I help? What can I do for you? Can I signal boost? Are y'all doing curbside pickup or delivery or subscription services? Tell me how I can help you. And and some of the folks got back and said, well, a lot of people got back to me, which was great. It's good to hear from people, but some of them got back and said, yeah, we're doing this and that and the other. But like in between me sending it and when people started getting back to me, Diamond stopped taking new comics. And so it's really kind of tied people's hands just in terms of how much they can do. And I've heard from other shops that have been, they were doing curbside or they were open limited hours and things like that. And increasingly as different states have clamped down more aggressively, that's changed. So, I've been doing my best to kind of signal boost and direct people. I have, look, I have to do it. I'm sorry. This just came out 2 weeks ago. There's No One Left to Fight, the comic you always wanted. It's right there on the cover. That just came out like 2 weeks ago on March 11th in comic book shops, and it hit kind of broader distribution networks just 2 days or 3 days ago. And so I've definitely been trying to encourage people, look, I know it's easy to go onto Amazon, it's easy to go to these places and have it shipped right to you, but also there are all these local shops, and a lot of them are still doing delivery or curbside pickup or any of these other options to get all of your comics, but most importantly, No One Left to Fight, which is out right now.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, Aubrey, thank you so much for joining us. And
of course, it's my pleasure.
So many titles. I want to point to, we have a bunch of people, Comics Pro, and I also know Boom Studios. If you go to their homepage, they actually have a link of comic book stores doing curbside pickup right now. So I'm going to drop the link in chat. So please, 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 as much as possible, support your local stores. If they're doing delivery, if they're doing curbside pickup, we have a lot of indie bookstores they're doing comic sales, they're doing, everything you need. So please check in with your local vendors because we want to keep everybody in business. So that when the world as we know it reopens for business, we have the independent business that we all know and love. And also Amazon has a real lag, y'all. So even if you haven't supported your local business before, I strongly encourage you to do so
Prime
now.
Ain't what it was a few weeks ago.
Exactly, I know.
Apparently comics are non-essential now. I don't know what audience they're with.
I've written a few letters. I'm trying to get that changed.
Strongly worded day drinking letters. I get you.
Yeah. I want to give Aubrey, again, thank you so much. And I want to give a big shout out to my shortly, a local comic book store in Montreal, Drawn and Quarterly. Drawn and Quarterly is literally doing hand delivery right now. The many amazing members of the Drawn and Quarterly staff are walking around Montreal hand delivering comics. I mean, seriously, could it not be any better than that? So everyone, please check out your local comic book store or find a new store, an independent bookstore that you actually haven't checked out before. Hey, Henry, you're back. You're up next. Yay! So we have up next, Henry, who's going to talk about what's going on now, your new title, and how you're handling working from home. I mean, which I know is not terribly different from everybody in comics, but it's good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you. Sorry, I was jumped in a little early.
No, no worries. Okay, so do you want to tell us, like, what do you have on the docket? What are you working on now? And also, like, what's changed for you as we've all changed in the past week and a half?
So currently I am working on a new fantasy book that deals with Mesoamerican history that I think is, I mean, as far as someone who's consumed fantasy, not really knowing it until a year ago, that a lot of the kind of the mythos has been pieced out from Mesoamerican actual events. So I've always been a big fan of like Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and never really saw myself in it, never really thought about it. So I'm trying to go into a new story that deals with that type of knowledge, but going into a world that really hasn't been explored in a fantasy aspect. So I've been really excited to work on it. Unfortunately, from everything that's happened, I don't know when that's coming out. I'm hoping sooner than later. And I've always been someone who has self-published and self-funded my projects. So if that's where we have to go with it, then I'm excited to do that. But this year was mainly geared towards celebrating and promoting my book that came out in November, La Voz de Mayo Tata Rambo. And
So good.
thank you, I appreciate that. So this was supposed to be, this March month was supposed to go to the third largest book festival in Tucson, the Tucson Festival of Books, and supposed to go to Modesto, California, to the Latinx Comics Festival, which there's a very large Hispanic population there. It was supposed to go to the Create Latinx Expo in Brownsville, Texas, which is a border town that also services and is home to a lot of Mexican American Latinx people. So it's unfortunate that the work that we were excited to do when the book came out has been postponed.
Yeah, I think one of the things, especially even for the ideas of Creators Assemble, I mean, Moni was working on programming for WonderCon. We have so many people that were slated to go to Emerald City Comic Con. And I mean, the whole hashtag ECC Online came about because for so many creators, not going to a show like Emerald City represents a huge reduction in potentially 10, 15, 20% of your yearly income. So, yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the income thing is one of the biggest hits, and it's unfortunate that that is, one of the aspects to it. But one of the things that I started to really dedicate myself and within my work at Top Cow Productions was to really get an outreach going with libraries and get books that in people's hands that people can't really afford to have. And it's very unfortunate. I'm in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles County is currently under strict stay-at-home orders. So a lot of people that, like myself, who use the library almost daily, is not able to get access to the internet and printing and a lot of services that I don't have at home. And it's really unfortunate. But I'm trying to do my best to, send books out to people and send. I remember when everything started happening, I had made the first chapter of my graphic novel free so that teachers or educators or librarians can, forward that to people that are either learning from home or trying to study more about Latinx and Mexican American history.
Yeah. No, and I would say one of the things I love about your comic is we are seeing so many educators really struggling with the whole teaching from home thing. All of a sudden, you know, one of my good friends here is a second grade teacher, and she was like, so you're going to be teaching online? And she's like, I teach second grade. I mean, I think for so many teachers, they're struggling to find curriculum and platforms and everything. And I think your comic is fantastic in that it really reinvigorates moments in American history that a lot of times we don't talk about enough, or, you know, we've sort of excised from history. Yeah.
Yes. Just to recap, La Voz de Mayo, that the Rambo is about my great grandfather. He's a Mexican American. He was a World War II veteran, just someone who was a proponent of equal rights for Native Americans. He helped one of the last Native American tribes, the Pasquayaki tribe, gain federal recognition and buy their property and just rebuild and build from the ground up sidewalks and plumbing and electricity, and just allow a lot of everyday amenities that we take for granted were granted to the Pasquayaki tribe thanks to the work of him and the Mayo organization. So yeah, no, I really hope that if the book can help teachers or anyone that is looking to self-educate about Mexican American history and is having a hard time looking for it, will definitely make that available to anybody.
That's awesome. So, and this is also what we want to do with this platform and this forum. One of the things we're really committed to, especially through libraries, is promoting lots of different publishers, different stories. We really want the books that our communities read to also reflect our communities and reflect our history. So thank you again for being on. But before we let you go, I want you to answer our questions. So,
all right.
Working from home, your new routine, what are the craziest, weirdest things, I mean, that's going on right now with you?
Oh, that's funny. I started, as a freelancer before I had a full-time job. I was working from home. So, just remembering to brush your teeth every day is one of the things that you don't think about. Eating daily. Yeah. Also just you're at an apartment, or I live in an apartment in Los Angeles, and you just hear a lot of noises that you don't normally hear at an office, like leaf blowers and cars and just neighbors having fun conversations. So yeah, no, I really feel for everybody that's currently adjusting and hopefully has the privilege to work from home. And there's just, I know a lot of friends that are bartenders and hospitality workers that just don't have that luxury. So I'm very very fortunate that Top Cow Productions has allowed me to work from home, and we have a lot of digital offerings like Humble Bundle that's helping the Jane Goodall Institute, and One Life to Love, and the Hero Initiative that helps comic book creators, especially elderly comic book creators that aren't able to get a lot of help or financial help. So we've been running that kind of thing with Humble Bundle, and so I'm really honored and privileged to be in a position where I can still do the work that I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so any particular things that you're following, listening to, watching that you want to give a shout out before you sign off, that are like potentially positive and or informative, or just things that have been keeping you sane right now?
Yeah, I just downloaded the 9 Inch Nails albums. Really awesome. Just really happy that they put those albums out for free. I love how intuitive everyone's become with live streaming and Instagram. A lot of friends that have been just drawing for live streaming purposes. And let's see, there's one that I really want to give a shout out. If you just give me one moment, I can pull that up. Isabel Quintaro was doing a reading of her book, My Papi Has a Motorcycle. It's very exciting to see her and see Pena both put out something that's been has had critical acclaim and a lot of attention from librarians and educators, and just happy to see a book that I would have loved as a kid to see in libraries and schools. So yeah, those are the couple, just seeing everyone kind of pull together and just trying to be there for one another as much as we can.
That's awesome. Henry, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure. And I mean, I feel like, you know, I'm really glad we get to meet at San Diego Comic-Con, and who knew we'd be weathering the apocalypse together doing library comic stuff, right?
Hey, you know, it was an honor to meet you at San Diego. I was looking forward to seeing you again, and everybody with the ALA graphic novel roundtable. Everyone's been so helpful, and meeting so many more people. It's really exciting times, but also, you know, I just really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Henry. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you more during Creators Assemble. We'd love to talk to you more about and if anybody who's listening live, Henry had actually done one of our Banned Books Week webinars for us. So if you check out our Banned Books Week webinar link, I'm going to drop it in the chat again. Henry, you did a great talk. And so thank you so much again for joining us.
Yeah, with Sloan. Yeah, no, really honored and just happy to be a part of the conversation. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Henry. And so next up we have Chelsea Kane. So good to see you, Henry. And
cheers.
Chelsea, thank you for joining us again, super last minute. So we're talking to everybody and asking everybody, you know, how are you doing working from home? How are things in comics? How are you staying healthy and well? Because you were based actually in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon. Yeah, how am I coping? I have a mason jar full of Chardonnay.
Yes. We do not condone.
Yeah. You know, like it's, I'm sure everybody has talked about this, but like my general routine has not changed. I am still isolated at home with my family, which is how it usually is day to day.
Yeah.
So like, it's not, you know, like, it's not like I usually go to an office. But, you know, obviously everything has changed at the same time. So we're still trying to figure that out.
Yep. I think the new normal is still, the thing. So are there particular things that you're listening to, you're following, you're watching, anything that's like both keeping you informed and positive right now in creatively and also just, you know, self-care, staving off the existential dread?
You know, bubble baths, a lot of Swedish crime fiction.
Okay.
I find that really helpful. That's just me. That's how, weirdly, like the more that is going on, the more I need to kind of indulge in really brutal violence. Not like literally, but like in stories. I find that like very cathartic. So I think Scandinavians are quite good at that. And there is something to the Scandinavian crime fiction that it's so matter of fact and yet so brutal at the same time. Yeah, that is my panacea. So
it's a funny thing. What brings us comfort. I was doing a podcast recording earlier and I was asked like, what are you reading? And I was like, oh, you know, Octavia Butler. I've been reading Jean Yang's new like Superman versus KKK. And she was like, wow, this is really serious stuff. And I was like, yeah, but it makes me feel hopeful because this is like serious stuff, but somehow they like mitigate through it, you know? So.
And I think like that's what stories do, right? They allow us to experience our feelings in a really controlled, safe space. And the wonderful thing about books is that we can control that environment. We can sit on our couch in our safe living room, and we can read terrible stories. And we can, when they get too intense, we can skim the page and we can put it down. And you know, we control that. And that's the wonderful thing about books. And that is why I think it's a very different media than any other in the sense that like I have always said to my kid, like, she can read anything, you know, like literally, like she can read anything that she wants to read. I am not nearly as indulgent when it comes to other media for her. Because I think that it is a very different experience, right? Reading a book allows the user to control the experience in a way that's really important. I think especially right now, there's so much anxiety and so much fear, and there's not a way to process it because we really can't even talk to each other, much less to ourselves. And so to like, I think that stories have never been more important, and I hope that people take advantage of that to just work through just even a tiny bit of what we're all going through right now.
Oh, entirely. I mean, I don't know if you, earlier in the call, we had Matthew No from the graphic medicine community on the line. And one of the things I think, especially that's very unique within comics, is that we're uniting bibliotherapy and art therapy in this wonderful platform for people to process things emotionally, visually, on so many different levels. And there's a lot that we're all feeling. And I think also stories are what unite us. And there's so much, one of the things we found, we actually have one of our colleagues on the line from Australia, and we now have a library comics community in Australia. And we have colleagues in the UK, and I mean, through comics, you'll see there's such a large, huge community, and there's such a great community around fandom. Fandom has like its dark sides too, but I'm choosing to be on the positive right now. You don't know anymore.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. But is there anything that you're working on right now that you want to give a shout out about, or that you're feeling excited about, that you want readers to know is coming for them? This wonderful gift that you're working on.
I just had Eliza go downstairs, my daughter, and pick this up because it came in a box, but this is Spy Island.
So cool.
So this is a new comic that was going to come out on April 1st, which I should have known was an April Fool's joke. Yeah. And that was a very funny industry. Yeah, it's, it is a story about the Bermuda Triangle and spies. But I'm working on the same team as Maneaters and many of the same team from Mockingbird. So we are continuing to move forward on it, which is, I feel very grateful for. Like, a lot of projects have been put on hiatus, and we are in a position where we're able to kind of bank it. So we'll see like how that looks. In terms of like when it actually gets out to people, because obviously publishers are very conscientious of the direct market, and just like not wanting to put stuff on the internet and subvert that, and so everybody's holding everything, which I think is the smart, responsible move.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing we all are sort of holding our breath on, is we're not sure where the industry is going to go in terms of digital comics, the print and everything. But will you be launching Spy Island digitally then on April 1st, or you're holding everything?
No,
okay.
Holding it.
Okay.
Yeah, because to launch it digitally would mean it would cost, not literal sales in the moment, because nobody can sell comics or really nobody can print them or distribute them at this point.
Chelsea, I feel a little bit irritated that you just showed me what seems like a really cool comic, and now you're telling me we need to wait for it.
I'll send you a copy.
Okay, but because it kind of looks like it.
At the very least, those are going to be distributed among my friends and family.
Yeah, but I'm excited that there's more to come, and I think that's for all of us. We're trying to create, if you will, our virtual library community, so that we know that even though our physical spaces may be closed right now, that we still have the virtual community, and we're all trying to support each other. So I'm happy to know that you have an exciting, cool new title coming out, because I feel like it almost seems like Swiss Family Robinson meets like Nancy Drew or something.
That was great. I'm gonna write that down. That's a good word. I do think, one, there will always be stories. We always need stories, and this is it is such a confusing and horrifying and uncertain time. But there will always be stories. There will always be people who need stories. And certainly, we need libraries now more than ever. And however this looks, and everybody's figuring out how it looks, right? And I think that our various communities, are looking to know what will work. So if there is something that libraries need from us, If you want me to, like, I can send you 99 floppies. I'm gonna keep on.
I mean,
99 to just, you know, to some teenagers that you librarians know. That's cool. I'm willing to do that.
Well, I will say we do know a lot of libraries. I have colleagues, especially in a city like New York, that's been shelter in place for a while. And so many teens, they've actually been mailing out books to teens that they normally work with through school libraries. So I feel like, yeah.
I'm gonna email you later because I will literally, like, I have a box of these, you know, like a big box, and I will just make sure that you guys, like, whoever needs them, whoever out there needs them, I will send them. Okay. And we'll do that on April 1st.
Okay. Like, I love that. Okay, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure as always. And I also love the fact that your glasses match your, the color of your walls. Like, seriously, I feel like I need to repaint. Like my home office space is like, it needs a little bit more pizzazz as we go on.
Literally, this color is called lipstick pink.
That's amazing. So Chelsea, thank you again. It was a pleasure, and we'll certainly hopefully talk to you more as we do more Creators Assemble. I feel like we're all going to be here for a while, so we should talk again. Yeah.
Nothing else going on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Chelsea. And next up, we have Ryan Estrada, who's going to join us.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much. And I thank you so much for answering the call super last minute and also very patiently waiting in queue. Super appreciate it. So you've probably heard, you know, our check-in questions at this point, but like, yeah, how are you doing? And also, is that your real background? Like, that is the best that I've seen.
This is one of my comics. This is how I decorate my office. This is Aki Alliance.
That's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much.
Wow. So what's changed for you, or like, how are you finding the working from home? Obviously, this is something you probably do a lot of, but what if some changes have come through, especially as we're all sort of trying to respond to Diamond and just dealing with the world as we know it now?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I live in South Korea, and so we've been dealing with this a little bit longer than anyone else. We were one of the first places hit. But I mean, it's just been so like organized here, like it's like a well-oiled machine. Like I've been here for SARS and MERS and Zika and bird flu and swine flu and all of those. So it was, everybody kind of just trusted that things were going to be done well, and there was no official like lockdown. They just kind of gave guidelines, everyone followed them, and it seems to be working well. The cases are dropping here. I still work at the Kijang Library here, and
cool.
we had a week of no work, but I still have to go there. The library's closed, there's no patrons, and we have our own little safe cubicles. But I ride my bike there, so that I'm not on public transportation, and then work on books and comics at my desk. So they're very different, but it's a little less stress here than it has been previously.
No, and I think that's probably heartening for those of us in North America to hear, especially from people who have been living through this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's adjusting to the new normal is definitely something that we're all wrestling with. So for you right now, as you go about your daily routine, are there particular things, news sites, other creators that you're checking in with, things that are both keeping you informed and also inspired right now as you work?
Yeah, mostly most of my information about what's going on, in the world of books and everything is just through Twitter. Just I just follow mostly a lot of ALA people, a lot of librarians, and through my publisher Iron Circus Comics, I'm getting a lot of news, and like seeing how it's again, even beyond being in Korea, I was one of the first ones with a book release affected by this, because our book was supposed to come out back in February, but the factory that was printing it shut down, and so it's been shifted several times. It's in May now, and yeah, just kind of catching up on work and working on a million books at once. It's funny, everyone's talking about how they have so little to do, but I've kind of somehow ramped up to like 30 times what I normally do, and working on many books.
That's awesome. I sort of hope, you know, there have been a thread going around on a lot of social media feeds, like pointing out all the people who wrote such exceptional works of literature and art and fiction and while in quarantine or, you know, while, and I'm like, first of all, it puts a lot of expectations, but at the same time, it's a good point. Like, I think for some of us, it'll be a really good productive period, hopefully.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes me productive is that, you know, everyone says like write no matter what, like every day you should be writing, which is exactly the opposite of what I do. Like if I don't feel like it, I don't make myself. I will gladly like sit and binge watch a series that I hate. And then after that, I'll be like, man, that was a waste of time. I feel like drawing comics, and then I'll be so like into it. But if I force myself to do something I don't want to do, I'm going to dislike it, and it's going to kill my motivation to do it. So I think that if people are feeling stressed and anxious, and you know, they shouldn't force themselves to be productive. But if you are feeling inspired, maybe, you know, letting yourself feel uninspired is a good way to let yourself feel inspired the next day. And so, yeah, that's my reaction to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good response, because I think especially for so many people in the creator community, y'all are sort of used to dealing with an existential dread of like you're your own bosses, and like you're working on the, you know, what you're doing, and you have to sort of provide that initiative, but also motivate yourself and sort of check in with yourself. Where a lot of people, I think, we're working from home for the first time, are like, oh my goodness, you know, and they're sort of having to supply that motivation to themselves and feeling under these productivity strains that we sort of associate with a 9-to-5 instead of a work from home and a more, yeah. So with your work from home, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's too different, but do you have any particular adjustments? Like, do you have furry coworkers or little coworkers that are joining you or popping on your video feed? Like,
no, we don't have any pets anymore, but I'm here with my wife, and it's actually become more like the rest of the world is adapting to me, because like having lived, you know, I live in South Korea, and I've been doing a book tour, like digital book tour all year, going on live streams and podcasts. And now that's how all book tours are. And now there's more opportunities like this that like, oh, I wouldn't have been able to do this previously. So it's welcome to my world.
I love that, the whole digital book launch. Maybe this is finally, we're in the 21st century finally, you know. And I do think, I know for us in libraries, like we talk so much about accessibility, and I'm sure you heard some of my colleagues mention, we know so many people who use the library, like do not have Wi-Fi at home or have minimal Wi-Fi at home connectivity. And we make so many assumptions about what people can do in terms of coming to cons, like physically, like it's very cost prohibitive for a lot of people, and for us even coming to professional conferences. So doing virtual launches or trying to meet people where they are is actually kind of an equitable way of doing things. So.
Yeah, one thing that I've been that I'm going to be launching soon that I want to try is, because you know, a lot of libraries are trying to do remote events, but not everyone has access to live video.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm going to try doing is, if any library wants to, or classroom wants to have their kids send me questions to me and my wife, who co-wrote our book, we're going to make a custom comic of us answering that question to any library that wants it, and then they can put it on social media or their website or whatever. I've already prepared, like I have a Photoshop document of like 100 drawings of each of us in different expressions and poses, so I can quickly like swap them in to like match what we're saying, and formats so that I can turn them out easily. So I'm going to be launching that soon. But if anybody is interested in that, they can message us at Banned Book Clubs on Twitter, or email me, ryan@ryanestrada.com, and we'll get that set up.
That's so fantastic. Oh my, I'm just gonna make sure I drop that in correctly. Ryan@ryanestrada.com, is that correct?
Yeah.
Just okay, fantastic. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. And also, honestly, thank you. I didn't realize that you were actually based in South Korea. And I think honestly, like I feel a little bit heartened to hear like how South Korea is like, okay, we got this. You know, it's gonna be a change of pace for a lot of us. But at the same time, like I feel like we're gonna weather through this together. So thank you so much for calling in, and we really appreciate it. And again, thank you for joining so last minute. It's so appreciated.
Yeah, I was in bed. I like, rolled over to check the time, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
dear.
all right, I'm in. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's time to get up.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, and hope that
thank
you can
you.
join us for Creators Assemble. Oh, fantastic,
Yep, and
Band
I
Book
hope-
Club.
Yep, Band Book Club comes out in May now, so hopefully
Awesome.
that you'll all have that soon to read in your Corona teens.
Yeah, I think we're calling it comics in the time of Corona, right? Like
Okay,
Gabriel
yeah.
Garcia Marquez, like, you know,
Okay.
it's library humor. Thank you so much, Ryan. And so next and last up, we will have Shelley. And I think Shelley is dialed in, but for everyone on the line, I just want to say this is overwhelming. Creators, you're amazing, and we thank you so much for joining us, especially last minute like this. For everyone who's been watching and following along, this is not going to be the last time we do this. We want to make sure that we continue to have the virtual community that's been the same in-person community that we've had for so long at the cons, at the library conferences, and making sure we all support each other, we signal boost, and we talk about, you know, staying connected as we get through this. So I just want to double check. Shelley's in, okay. I just have to check on something for our panelists. Moni, do you want to talk for just a few minutes about what's to come with Creators Assemble, including some of the creators that we have recorded right now? And I'm just going to check in on something.
Absolutely. So, and as Amy mentioned, this is a project that I'm so excited to have in a time of need, but this is something that we're scheduling out into the future with varying kinds of content of interest to everyone who is here and in our library and comics communities. I do want to tease who we have coming up in the next week or two, and then the weeks that follow. So I can tell you some of the confirmed. We had Alina Chow, as I mentioned, record yesterday. Ezra Clayton Daniels will be doing a 30-minute for us tomorrow. Brian Azzarello will actually be on, courtesy of Boom. Kieran Gillen will be on as well. We have Lila Sturges and kicking off our 60-minute live hangouts, and that will actually be taking place next Friday. I'm terrible with time conversions. I'll pull that up for you guys in just a minute, but next Friday, hour-long conversation, Lila Sturges and Aaliyah Perez, who is our president-elect for the Comics Roundtable. We're going to have Brian Shermer, Gabby Rivera. We've got Grace Ellis on the docket. Scotty Young, who was here at the top of our chat tonight, is going to be on eventually. So stay tuned, as they say, for lots of great content, both in the 30-minute pre-recorded and in the live hangout formats. So I hope you guys will join us for that. And then as we've mentioned already this evening as well, graphic medicine content, readers advisory, hanging out with librarians, hanging out with educators, and just basically kind of keeping an eye out for what you guys as our members, as our audience here is coming on to say that they want to see is what we'll be responsive to and offering next. And it looks like our next guest is here.
Oh, well, fantastic. Hey, Shelley, how are you? And Shelley, can you hear us? I don't know if your audio, can you hear us now?
I can. Hi.
Oh, fantastic. Hey.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm a neophyte with Zoom, so.
No, thank you for joining us, and especially joining us at such last minute. We really appreciate it. So Shelley will be our last guest for tonight, but I just want to say for all of the creators, Chris Aaron had reached out to a bunch of creators on our behalf, and we've gotten so many creators. So this is, again, not the last time we're going to do this. Shelley will be our last creator for tonight that we talked to, but more to come with Creators Assemble. But yeah, Shelley, you're our last. And so yeah, we're all, Zoom is, even though I've used it before, it's a bit, you know, you're cool. So what are some things that you're working on? What are some things that have changed, especially with the current state of things, working from home, all of the above, existential dread, you know?
Well, for me, for the past 5 months, I've actually been freelance editing. So except for the pandemic environment, I've gotten used to working in my pajamas for the most part, and I love it. I've been working in comics since 1988, and I don't want you to do the math, please. And I've usually had a corporate job. So I worked for DC Vertigo for 23.5 years.
Wow.
And I also worked for IDW for 3 years, but I was working remotely for them, which was really cool. It was still 9 to 5. But it was nice because I can kind of like, you know, work in my own space. And yeah, the past couple of weeks have been weird, but also inspiring. And I'm excited to talk to you because I've been cooking up a secret anthology project that I haven't talked to anyone about except you guys. I'm telling you about it. Of course, I've been assembling and working with other editors, but basically what we're trying to do is unite all the women writers and artists in comics, and also females that identify as women. And we're joining forces to create a very special project in aid of female retailers because they are badass and we adore them. And just like librarians, we desperately need their support and their enthusiasm. So that is something exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it has been exhilarating. We've been crafting it for the past week. And so we're going to have a big announcement soon. And I think I might have to give the full brief to Chris Arendt for getting me on here.
I love this. And I especially think it's amazing that you're the one that we're concluding with.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm terrible at keeping secrets. So when Chris texted me like an hour ago, I was like, okay, I want to talk about Femme Magnifique, which you may or may not know about. I would also like to talk about Hey Amateur.
Awesome.
And reveal the secret project as much as I can.
That's so cool. I think especially that's something that we've all been talking about is with Diamond's announcement and just like the current state of things, like how can we support and ensure that the world as we know it when we return to whatever the new normal is a one in which like so many fantastic businesses that have opened, especially female run businesses, especially in comics, are still alive and kicking. So.
Oh yeah, it's critical. And I'm a big fan of the anthology, and I like bringing hundreds of people together to create on the page. So this to me was a no-brainer. And what's been wonderful is that anyone that I've reached out to, whether they can contribute something small or actually something substantial of a few pages, everybody's been into it. So I think once it goes live and once we tell everybody specifics, I'm really hoping it's going to be a call to arms just for women in general. Like you said, female-run businesses, and certainly many of us who are in a male-dominated environment, whether it's comics or sports or anything where we've got to fight, you know, for our rights at the top of the ladder. To me, this is a great moment for us to show people like, look, we know how to get it done, and let's help everybody get back on their feet.
Oh, 100%. And I think I was saying a little bit earlier in the live cast, I've been reading a lot of kind of dystopic sci-fi, but it's all sort of hopeful. It's the idea that like when we go through something traumatic, potentially even as a community, we have many abilities to reinvent ourselves or actually signal boost or reinvent ourselves in a way that we kind of wish we always were. So yeah. I'm super excited to see. Shelley, is there any kind of a link or anything that we can tease on the chat? Maybe is it best for people to contact you on your social, or what is the best way to find out more about what's coming?
Yeah, I think tagging me, I'm on Twitter as SX Bond. And also there's a Facebook group that's actually spearheading this particular project. So yeah, there'll be a lot of ways, I guess, to reach those of us. We've got 7 editors who are teaming up for this great project.
Fantastic.
I love what you said about the dystopian, sort of the positive dystopian fiction. And I think that that's going to definitely, we're going to see more of that, I think, in the coming months. The project that we're doing is a bit more sort of an arts and crafts and comics compendium.
That's so cool.
I think librarians are going to really dig it because it's all ages too.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's definitely something that we've heard a lot from us with our communities. A lot of people are at home suddenly and they have littles running around and they're like, okay.
Yep. Office sidekicks now.
Exactly. We had a few office, Scotty Young called in to start this and his office sidekick ran in several times.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh my God. I I have a 15-year-old son who's a drummer. So there's a chance that you guys might get some crazy soundtrack behind us. I've asked him to stay in his room, which is generally his place, you know, his happy place. So I can't guarantee it will happen, but it might.
That's awesome. So Shelley, you said that there's more announcements coming, hopefully in the coming week. Hey?
Yeah.
Okay, so for everyone listening, we're at time. And so I know Zoom has been fantastic and it's a platform we've all been using, but we're probably gonna get cut off soon. So Shelley, hopefully we can have you back for one of our Creators Assemble talk and hear more about the project, because this is definitely, I think, for all of us, kind of being like, we don't know how long this is going to go on. Is this going to be weeks? Is this going to be months? How can we continue to support each other virtually through all of our communities, for places to sell product, for libraries that are at least are doing virtual reference, like however we can continue to support things, we're here. So Shelley, thank you so much, especially for being our last creator to join. If there's any, do you want to give us an ending? What would you like to say as a way to close out this first like library comics thing of the apocalypse?
Well, I just want to thank you for inviting me. I attended my first ALA a few years ago, and I just think you're a group of amazing people. We can't do it without you guys, so thank you for all your support. Librarians rock.
Oh, thank you so much. We feel similarly. It's a mutual admiration society. Chloe Ramos Peterson, who works for Image Comics doing our library marketing, we have a saying, mutual admiration society. And like, I feel the same way. Everybody within library and comics and stuff, like when I went to library school, I didn't think that this was going to be the hill I was going to die on, but I was like, library comics. Yep. That's how I want to roll into the apocalypse.
Hey, we need t-shirts now. You've just given me like 6 different quotes for t-shirts, and you're wearing an Alpha Flight t-shirt. So I'm going to hold you to it.
Indeed, I am. I was wearing this because it's sort of a joke that, you know, as a sort of Canadian American, I want to represent. So, yeah.
Well, I wanted to actually represent too. So I'm wearing my Clash jacket and my Jam t-shirt, because when you don't have to work in corporate comics anymore, it's like, rock on, people. This is how it's done.
Absolutely. Shelley, thank you so much. And Moni, do you want to sign us off? Moni, everything we're doing tonight, like Moni pulled this all together and on such short time and such limited bandwidth. So Moni, please spell us out tonight.
Thanks everyone for attending this. Look for more content like this and kind of this ilk. Creators Assemble and Libcomix Online are the hashtags if you're looking for it. And of course at Libcomix to follow the Graphic Novel and Comics Roundtable, where we will be posting the schedule and kind of what it's going to look like for us going forward. And I hope and believe that we can make this project have a greater impact, hopefully in the end, than everything that we're going through. This will be the greater thing that comes out of it that we can kind of move forward and keep doing. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks.
And good luck.
Stay safe, stay home. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Take care.